In India, climate change has become the most significant threats to coastal. Realizing the magnitude of the vision of the cell was to respond to global climate change by building capacity at local level, particularly in the context of Tamilnadu state, and to make it as a resilient state to combat climate. The first objective of this plan was to carry out a baseline study to assess the status and vulnerability of climate change on biodiversity, fisheries and coastal communities in the Gulf of Mannar. Thus, Marine Research Institute created a database on biodiversity in the region. The fishery survey data was also carried out to assess the fishing patterns and pressure. A survey for need assessment of the communities in terms of recommending and planning eco-development activities and training programs for alternate livelihoods was also carried out. The second objective of this plan was to restore degraded coral reef and seagrass areas with the help of marine researchers from SDMRI. So, Coral Reef Restoration Program was carried out to save corals under this scheme. The standardized, low-tech and low-cost transplantation techniques in the Gulf of Mannar have been followed successfully. Seagrass rehabilitation was another aspect of habitat restoration of this initiative. The natural threats to seagrass in India are cyclones, waves, and climate change. But the anthropogenic activities are some of the major causes of seagrass destruction in India. Hence, the standardized low-cost and low-tech suitable method for the environmental conditions of Gulf of Mannar was followed for seagrass rehabilitation. Regular monthly monitoring was carried out to study the survival and growth at the rehabilitated coral and seagrass areas. The third objective was to build climate change resilience to the fast eroding Vaan Island through deployment of artificial reef modules. The Vaan Island, which is one of the 21 islands of Gulf of Mannar, plays a critical role in protecting the coast from natural calamities like cyclones and tsunami. But the Vaan Island was on the brink of disappearing due to severe erosion and was split into two parts in 2013. Undertaken by the governments to protect the Vaan Island. Based on artificial reefs for biodiversity enhancement, in 2003, the multi-purpose artificial module design focusing on protection and biodiversity enhancement was finalized. For this, the Indian Institute of Technology Madras, IITM, conducted wave dynamic and bathymetric studies. The fourth objective of this plan was to promote eco-development activities among coastal communities to enhance their adaptive capacity and to sustain livelihood and food security. The activities included are microcredit provision, revolving funds, self-help groups nurturing wherein alternate livelihood opportunities were being generated for the communities. Over 15 self-help groups per village across 64 sites covering 23 coastal villages were chosen, and thousands of women were benefited from the project activity. The propagation of the role of marine habitats like coral reefs, impacts of climate change, and the need for awareness was from 2005, and it just covered the area from Rameshwaram to Tuticorin. Through this plan, baseline survey has been done to study and cover wider area extending up to Kanyakumari. In fact, for the first time, vulnerability assessment of coastal villages of Gulf of Mannar was mapped through this survey. The steps taken to restore the degraded coral reef areas have shown some great results. In Tuticorin coast, over 4 square kilometer degraded reef area has been rehabilitated around Kariyachali and Vilanguchali islands. The rehabilitation of seagrass has created habitat creation for several fishes, and survival of rehabilitated seagrasses was over 90%. The deployment of artificial reefs parallel to the sinking Vaan Island, which was 84% immersed in water, has not only reduced the effect of currents and waves, but also enhanced fish habitats for higher fish production. The concrete reefs that had been deployed under this initiative have helped prevent further erosion and led to an increase in Vaan Island's surface area. The steps taken under eco-development activities have helped the fishermen community in a huge way. It has helped in improving the socio-economic conditions of people living in and around these coastal villages. This is just the beginning of the successful initiative that has not only helped in saving an eroding island, increasing live coral and seagrass cover, enhancing fish catch, but also worked in collaboration with the local community.